How I fix my melasma by ignoring the dermatologist's mainstream advice. And let's dispel hyperpigmentation and pigmentation in scars. We're going to tackle a bunch of things in this video. If you enjoy my content, please be sure to hit like, make a comment, tell me your thoughts, and subscribe to my channel, of course. So let's jump right in. First of all, melasma is hyperpigmentation or spots on your face, on your forehead, on your upper lip. It tends to be where it comes in the most. And it's very common during pregnancy or after giving birth. And it's common just in general with women. It's typically not called melasma, I think, and it's just called, sunspots or hyperpigmentation in other scenarios when it's not directly related to pregnancy or breastfeeding, or if it's in men. But the thing is that when you have melasma, and I struggle with that for several years, the advice is to wear sunscreen and to block the sun at all cases. And the treatments that they offer you is whitening type treatments where there'll be creams that actually depigment or downregulate tyrosine in the skin. Tyrosine brings out that pigment in your skin, the spots or pigment in general, which is generally supposed to be smooth unless you're Fitzpatrick 1 and you're building on a tan, and then it's normal to look freckly. Back to melasma. I struggled with it after I had my first daughter. I had like clouds of spots under here, tons on my nose, like way more. Now I just have a tiny bit of freckles, and I had them on my forehead and as well a ton on my upper lip where it looked like I had a mustache pretty much, and it bothered me a lot, and I tried so many different things to get rid of them. And the funny thing is, I grew up very outdoorsy, so I never really wore sunscreen until I got pregnant with my first kid, and I started just, I guess, being worried about vanity and buying into all of the concern about skin and being like, well, you want to look young. And this was entirely about vanity for me. And I was like, oh, maybe I should wear sunscreen. And I started wearing sunscreen at the time when, again, I was pregnant with my first kid. And it was after she was born that I got melasma. And I didn't just get on my face, I actually had it in my armpits, and I had a lot more spots or liver spots or whatever on my arms. I kept, wearing sunscreen, and I started getting really frustrated and I started wearing a hat too, which was something I never used to do at all, ever. And I don't do anymore because the sun doesn't bother me. I never really feel the need for shade. And so I don't wear a hat. Some people do, and some people need it, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I didn't. And I just did it for the purposes of my melasma that was really bugging me. And then it hit me. I said, wait a minute. I was looking like, what's a natural way to cure melasma? How do I fix this problem in myself? And I scoured the internet. I scoured YouTube videos. I couldn't find anything that didn't coincide with the mainstream of sunscreen, blocking, tyrosine inhibitors, like whitening creams, stuff like that. I didn't find anything at all. And then it occurred to me, I said to myself, this was before I knew anything about circadian biology or light or sun or anything like that. But there was a thought that came to my head because I've always been a nature first person. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense that the thing that sustains all life on Earth would be the cause of something like this. I believed, and being a big Weston A. Price person from the beginning and seeing how, he looked at beauty from that standpoint, all of these outdoor living, high sun exposed people were very beautiful and had beautiful skin all the time, including, into their older years. They aged gracefully. So I was like, this is not adding up. And I decided I'm going to ditch the sunscreen. I'm just going to ditch the sunscreen. And I did. And I weaned because, again, I didn't know anything about circadian biology at this point. It was right before I found out anything, which is interesting because I thought I scoured the internet. It's getting really hard to scour the internet for real these days. But I didn't run into the work of Dr. Jack Kruse, which is actually free on his website about melasma, and it's excellent. So I ditched the sunscreen and I switched to coconut oil. I was like, I'm going to use coconut oil only at the beginning, and then I'll wait and see what happens. So I only use coconut oil for like maybe occasionally. The thing with coconut oil is only works because it really reflects light off of your skin when it's shiny and your skin is wet a little bit. And it doesn't really do that much. It does work a little bit. They say there's a SPF. I'm not sure if it's the reflective properties or what it is exactly, but you have to keep reapplying it. So I started there and I did see a mild decrease in my melasma, because one of the odd things that I noticed is that the more sunscreen I wore, the more spots I got. That was the one thing. It was like, it just feels like it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going outside, I'm hot. I didn't have to be outside. I just have to sweat and they pop out. And then it was like coincidental that right after a few months of doing that, I ran into all of this research that spring. My melasma decreases in the winter, as it usually does, becomes less visible because I didn't have a tan. But it was still somewhat visible. And then going into the beginning of that year, at the end of the winter, January, February, when I started learning about all of this in that year, then I was like, well, I'm even going to ditch the coconut oil. And I started collecting red light tanning hours. So the first hour after sunrise, I would go watch the sunrise and I would lie outside in a tan through bathing suit. I had a Kiniki and a cool tan. I have both of them. And I would lie down on the cover of my hot tub. I had a hot tub at the time. Because that's where the sun hit. And I would do 1 hour, 30 minutes on one side, 30 minutes on the other side. Probably a couple months maximum of doing this every single day. And I did everything, right? When I learned about circadian biology, I changed all of my house lights, I changed all my screens, I did absolutely everything at the same time. So I would later learn, and I'm going to explain to you why that's important when it comes to this. But all of these spots in my face, they disappeared so fast. My arms, at first, it seemed like they hadn't changed or they had increased. And it took over a year, about 18 months, and I lost 60 to 70% of the liver spots or sunspots that were on my arms. Very, very fascinating. And I have a larger freckle on my nose that I've had for a really long time. It's gotten smaller in the last few years since I learned about all of this. So let's understand tyrosine a little bit. The dermatologists who are talking about dark spots and melasma, they explain that you want to inhibit tyrosine, which is an amino acid, but they tell you that the sun is going to increase tyrosine. But they're wrong, because they didn't actually look at tyrosine and what is a tyrosine inhibitor and what is a tyrosine promoter. Tyrosine promoter is blue light. That's a tyrosine promoter. Now, why don't you see your freckles when you're pale and you're sitting in front of your screen? Because that tyrosine, that melanin, that is being pulled from inside of your body where it needs to repair and do things and all these things. It's been pulled out to just underneath the visible part of your skin. And the tyrosine is then kind of accentuated that situation because it's been stimulated by this artificial blue light. Then, when you go outside in the sun, your body's like, melanin, because melanin is so unbelievably critical to repair and regeneration. That is a couple posts that I'm going to be posting everywhere on social media, especially Instagram with carousels in great detail. So you need a ton of melanin on the inside and on the outside. You have it in your brain. It's super, super important for managing metals, heavy metals, for protecting you from metals, and it's your most powerful metal detox. Forget about metal detox. You need a tan. So you need melanin in other areas of your body, right? You have neuromelanin, you've got all these types of melanin. You need all this melanin, and you don't want it to migrate because it does migrate. I should say you need to migrate where it needs to go to repair and regenerate. So anyways, the point being, you get outside in the sun and your body is thinking, the sun, the giver of regeneration. Let's regenerate. Let's build all the melanin we can. And all this tyrosine, this melanin spots that were sitting just below the visible part of your skin, all of a sudden get expressed. But if you look at tyrosine and you see what actually blocks tyrosine from being excessive. It's full spectrum sunlight that blocks it from being excessive. So it's like, what is it? Is it the small percentage of time that you're spending outdoors that's causing your brown spots, or the 95% of your life you spend under artificial light? You know, as I like to point out to everybody when they're like, well, the sun did this to my skin. And I said, okay, how many hours per month do you spend outside with your skin exposed? Like, okay, let's count. Okay, so they count. Say, I don't know. Let's say they're pretty active outside. They spend an hour outside every day, which is not typical for most people. And they're like, okay, I spend 30 hours a month outside. Okay, great. How many hours do you spend with your face in front of a screen during the month? Let's see. What's 8 times 5 times 4? It's way more than the amount of time that you spend outdoors. Never mind that, when they talk about other areas of the body. And I say, where do you spend most of your time naked? Under that sun or under the artificial lights? Well, I guess it's indoors. No, duh. So why are you blaming the sun? Because you were programmed to blame the sun. That's why. But the thing is, if you really look down and understand the pigment, melanin, amino acids, it all starts to unravel and you realize that the sun isn't causing anything. Your indoor life is causing your melasma. Melasma is slightly more complicated because it signals an issue that's happening inside your brain because it happens in your face. So there are more layers to this, but getting rid of melasma is actually easy. Mitigate your lights, mitigate your EMFs, spend a ton of time tanning in red light, ditch all your sunscreen and sun blocking. Don't wear makeup. I don't wear makeup on my face ever. The only thing I wear is lipstick and eyeliner, and I don't do anything else because I'm a lazy little bugger. That's it. It's really that simple. Give it some time and patience, and at first, you may see some changes. You may see some worsening if your indoor environment was really bad for a long time, and then all of a sudden, it'll cross over the threshold, and it's going to go away. Like, it really will. And so will the other spots. Now, let's move this story into scarring. You know how I had surgery, right, for endometriosis, and I was told, you don't want it to scar. You don't want to go outside and tan your scars. You want to make sure you keep your scars covered. I was so careful with that because this was way before I knew about anything. And I was like, I don't want a scar. I actually can't even find my scars anymore, but I had a really good surgeon. That's besides the point. But I did an experiment later on about a scar and melanin. So I had really scraped my wrist on the side. It was this one. Let's put them side by side. I really scraped it like really badly, and I didn't do anything to it because I don't do anything. I didn't put anything, no oil, no natural oils, absolutely nothing. I just left it to heal on its own. And sure enough, it got really, really dark. It collected melanin. And I was looking at it and I was like, I wonder when it's going to go away. So it took some time. I don't know how long it was, maybe a couple months, but you can't see the scar anymore. So the question is, why did my scar collect melanin? Was it because your body's like, well, who cares? I don't want to be pretty. No, it's because your body was like, we need to regenerate this part of the skin. So what do we need to regenerate? We need water and melanin. So let's grab all the sun and let's make this part of the skin darker so we can regenerate it. That's what your body does. It's so smart. It's not stupid at all. So I would encourage you that if you have some patience and you have a scar, especially a fresh scar, because when you have an old scar, that is a different issue entirely. But you have a fresh scar, allow the sun to beat on it. Allow yourself to collect that melanin. Just ignore it for a little bit. And when it goes away and you see no sign of the scar whatsoever, you're going to thank me. You're going to be like, oh, my body does know what it's doing. There is a caveat to this. If your light sucks and everything sucks and you haven't curated your life and you don't watch the sunrise and you don't eat properly and you eat garbage, I'm not going to promise anything, okay? Like, you have to follow nature's rules if you want nature's benefits when it comes to scarring and hyperpigmentation and colors. Melanin spots on your skin are highly misunderstood. There's all this idea about liver detox, and it's all complete BS. They are downstream looking at the issue. Like, the issue begins here when you look at circadian signaling, melanin hydration, mitochondria, cytochrome C oxidase, charge separation of water, whatever. It begins here, and they're looking down there, and they're trying to make sense of it by not even looking at the physics of the situation, and they're just looking at biochemistry. Remember, the key problem with biochemistry when it comes to your body is that when you look at a biochemical formula, and like a dietitian will tell you this, and I actually mentioned this in another scenario, is that, if the chemical formula is the same, then everything's same, but it's not, because the chemical formula doesn't reflect the energy in the bonds. And for your body, that's everything. You know why? Because melanin charge separates water, and melanin basically breaks the bonds in hydrogen and oxygen. It breaks bonds. There are so many parts of your body, so many functions in your body, I should say, that are there to break the bonds. So they could charge separate water, so they could use things, so they could semiconduct, transfer information, so they could do all these things. They must break the bonds. If the energy required to break that bond changes, so does how your body functions. So this is why physics is important too when you're looking at how your body works. So the point is, if you have melasma, or if you have a lot of spots on your skin, and again, caveat to this, if you are a Fitzpatrick 1, meaning if you're naturally very pale and freckled and you're building a tan, you'll have lots of freckles naturally. This is not the same thing. You were just never meant to have ultra smooth skin. If you are one of those people, there are some people that are not like that and they have smoother skin. There are situations where this is normal, and you will know if you use your common sense. I promise. If you really don't know, you can always, ask me. But if you have melasma, hyperpigmentation, the key is you're going to eliminate your artificial light. Oh, wait, there was one more thing I wanted to add that I didn't want to forget. So it's been a while since I've been out shooting because of the whole grief thing, and I found fun activities difficult to do. But I love shooting skeet. And when you shoot shotgun, you need to wear protective eyewear. So what I noticed immediately in the very beginning is that when I would go out to the gun club and shoot a few rounds of skeet in the sun, I would obviously wear the protective yellow glasses. And remember, by the very principles of physics, the plastic lens will block UV light. Guess what happened? After a few hours in the sun with my protective eyewear, shooting at clay birds, I got freckles underneath my glasses. Just underneath my glasses. That's it. That really begs the question. This is, by the way, after I had eliminated my melasma. They would temporarily reappear, and then I would take off the glasses and get a ton of sun, on my skin, because I'm constantly working outside in most weather scenarios, that I was able to get them to go away again. But the key factor here is, if it was UV light, then why is it that the only place where there was no UV is where I got the spots? Right? I encourage you to experiment this on yourself, because it's going to be fun, and it's going to really open your eyes to how your body really works. Just be honest with yourself. So you can fix your melasma. I can't fix anybody's problems. Nobody can fix someone else's problems. Only you can fix your health problems. Okay? So you can fix your melasma, you can fix your hyperpigmentation, and you can improve repair and regeneration of brand new scars by allowing them to collect melanin and darken. Very cool, huh? I hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, If you liked it, found it useful, please hit like and subscribe to my channel so you can catch the next one. Thanks again.